In part one of my interview with Donovan Tildesley, we talked about growing up as a blind athlete and all the wonderful accomplishments he's made as a Paralympic athlete and champion and world record holder in swimming. Now let's talk about his golf game. So I asked Donovan, why did he take it up and why does he love it so much?
I guess I took up golf rather serendipitously. My next door neighbor, Maureen McLaughlin, is good friends with Ginny Golding, who's a pro out at UBC. And on a lesson that they were having, Ginny commented to Maureen that she had always wanted to teach a blind golfer. Maureen at the time was working with me to help me develop my website and brand and such, and so introduced the two of us together. We got along great. Ginny has an amazing sense of humor. I couldn't think of a more warm and fun-loving person who loves life and loves the sport of golf, and we've worked together for the past 2 years. What do I like about golf? Well, for one thing, it's a great social game. What other excuse do you have to get out in the sunshine for 4 hours with a bunch of good friends? Mm-hmm. It's also a good mental challenge. Golf, out of all the sports I've done, is probably offers the most degree of mental challenges, because if you're not on your game, if you're not focused, if you're not in the zone, then hitting that perfect shot is quite a challenge, and I've experienced myself many times, especially this summer, how important that mental game is. And why else did I take it up? Just for the challenge. I wanted to try a new sport since I'm coming to the sunset of my swimming career and excel in something else. And I had played golf as a young kid. I'd caddied for my dad, so I was familiar with the sport, but hadn't done it in quite a long time.
Oh, well, you have already excelled. I was happy to watch you play in the Harambee tournament, and you hit the longest drive off of I think, what was it, the 11th hole maybe? And it was just so much fun, and to capture that on film and see that you beat everybody on the field. And there were some pretty big guys out there who could bomb the ball a long way. That was pretty exciting.
It was, and I should clarify, it's the longest men's drive. There were quite a few women in that tournament, and I think only a handful of men. And I guess the other guys, mental thing. Maybe they just had a mental block. They just hit the ball to the left or to the right. I just somehow lucked out and was able to do that. And man, that felt pretty good.
Yeah, no, well, it was pretty fun watching it too. So you've been in some other tournaments and stuff. So tell me a little bit about your experience in golf so far and where you think you're going to go next with it.
It's been an incredibly positive experience for me, and I played in my first tournament this summer back in June at Riverway. It was actually a blind golf tournament put on by BC Blind Sports. We played at midnight, of course. No, we beautiful sunny day. We're all out on the course, and I was probably the youngest guy by almost 20 years, which was slightly intimidating. What was also intimidating for me was I only realized a couple of days before the tournament one key rule, and Ginny filled me in on this, that if you whiff at the ball, so if you swing and you miss, that counts as a stroke. And so here I was in this new playing situation with guys I didn't know and a course I didn't know, and I guess I choked for the first 5 or 6 holes. I tensed up and was more worried about outcome than process. I was always concerned about hitting that shot, and I remember one hole having to pick up the ball and move on because I took 4 or 5 whiffs at the ball on the first hole and just could not hit the darn thing. Finally, after hole 6, I said, okay, I've got to make a mental change here. I don't really care how I do. I changed my mind. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to win this tournament. This is just for fun. I don't give a care what happens. And so what I would do is I'd stand at the ball and just said in my mind, okay, smile at the ball. Be happy. Smile at the ball. And you know what? I hit that ball. And I think I only whiffed 2 or 3 more times during the rest of that tournament. And I think I even got a birdie on the 13th hole.
Fantastic.
And it just goes to show how powerful that mental aspect is in playing the game of golf. Because if you're not, if your mind's in the wrong place, then your ball is going to go to the wrong place or not move at all.
Hmm.
And I think for me and for Ginny, it was a huge learning experience, and there was some adversity which we both were able to overcome. And that's what makes golf, and that's what makes life interesting. If it were easy all the way through, it wouldn't be quite as fun. But when you have that challenge, that obstacle to overcome, it makes it all the more fulfilling.
Well, you've had a lot of practice at overcoming obstacles and been very successful. So something tells me you're going to be very successful at golf as well. And I look forward to playing with you again someday, hopefully before the season ends. But let's talk about something a little bit more along the lines of the future. We see that golf is going to be an Olympic sport in 2016. I'm wondering what your thoughts are in golf being a sport in the Paralympic Games someday.
I think it's a great idea, but the Paralympic movement is still a very young movement, and it will take some time for there to be a large enough playing field for it to become a contender as a Paralympic sport. Just as an example, we know that snowboarding became a Olympic sport back in 1998 at the Nagano Games, and it's only now, leading up to Sochi 2014, that snowboarding is even considered as a Paralympic sport.
Hmm.
So that's 16 years. So let's hope the wait is shorter with golf, and there are different challenges for golf than there are for Paralympic skiing or snowboarding. But I would like to see it happen in the next decade. I guess it all depends on how it goes in London and what the turnout is. But I think by the 2024 games, we could very well see golf as a Paralympic sport.
And you'd be certainly young enough to compete. Would you consider being a Paralympic golfer?
Absolutely. I have to improve upon my game first, but that's a long time away, and I would definitely consider pursuing that.
I think if you put your mind to it, you could do it. And I would love to be there when you did. So, well, Donovan, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you and look forward to spending more time with you in the future on the golf course and maybe off. But, let's close off and let everybody know what's next for you. What are you looking forward to over the next few years? And anything you want to close with in this conversation?
Well, a couple things. First of all, I'd like to say that despite the fact that I've pursued excellence and achieved excellence in sport, there is another aspect of my life that needs some growth, and that's in independent living. And that offers some challenges itself as a blind person. So over the next year, my goal is actually to go away to a school in Colorado, the Colorado Center for the Blind, which specializes in teaching blind people how to live on their own. So things like cane travel, managing clothes and different sorts of colors and such, and cooking. And this is what I'm looking forward to. I don't really know how to cook, but one of the challenges at this school, before graduating, you have to cook a meal for 50 people. So, yeah, most sighted people never do that. So
I couldn't do that.
I feel that for me, this is the next challenge and the next step that I need to pursue. And it will make me not only a more well-rounded public speaker, but also a more well-rounded human being, and give me the chance to spread my wings and come into my own a little bit more. By the same token, despite the fact that I'm going to be away, I still intend to be speaking and swimming and playing golf. So none of that's going to stop just because I'm going to be going away for 6 to 9 months.
I certainly wish you luck of that. Keep us informed of how you're doing there. And when you come back, I'll invite you over to my place and you can cook me dinner.
Sounds good. As long as you play some golf with me beforehand. But just in closing off, I'd just like to encourage everybody to always follow their dreams, and despite the obstacles that stand in all of our way, we all have the capability to overcome them if we have the will to do so. In the words of Henry Ford, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Absolutely. Well, that's excellent. What a nice way to end this. Thank you, Donovan.